Hello, so you've got high blood pressure and you're having problems achieving good control. Now, because of that, you have become obsessed with your blood pressure readings. Now, I've got a message here for you that will probably resonate with you. If you're interested, you should stay tuned. I'll see you after the channel intro.
Now, for today's 2020 idea to better health, please welcome on stage Dr. Joe.
Hello, welcome back. I'm Dr. Joe of thedrjoe.com. So I want to talk to you about a psychosomatic angle of high blood pressure that is often ignored. Now, I just want to say this before I continue. When I talk to you about high blood pressure, I'm talking to you from a unique position. Unique position in the sense that I am a medical doctor and I also suffer from high blood pressure. But I've been able to come through to the other side, get my blood pressure under control. So a lot of what you're going through, I've probably gone through them as well. Probably not all of it, but I've gone through a lot of all those psychosomatic problems that you may be experiencing at the moment as far as high blood pressure is concerned. So one aspect to this video is to let you know that whatever you're going through is surmountable. You're going to come through the other side a winner, okay? So this video was actually inspired by a lady who's been visiting my blog, and she wrote me this letter, and I'll just read it out to you. It says, "Dear Dr. Joe, I've been having problems with my blood pressure. I was diagnosed with high blood pressure 8 months ago and prescribed medications by my doctor. I was prescribed hydrochlorothiazide and Atelumol pills, which I'm using regularly, but my blood pressure is stuck at 150 over 100 millimeters of mercury. I can't seem to get it down. Even when I check my blood pressure 12 times a day, it is still the same. What should I do?" Now, what is happening to this lady is not unique, okay? Checking your blood pressure 12 times a day is obsessive, but I know why she's doing it. You might not be checking yours, 12 times a day. You might be checking yours just 4 or 5 times a day. But either way, regularly checking your blood pressure so many times a day, borders on obsession. And I want you to stop doing that. Why is that? Well, obsessing about your blood pressure numbers only leads to one thing: anxiety. So you check your blood pressure, it is high, you become anxious, and then you check it again. Of course, it's going to stay the same or it's going to be higher. And then that leads to more anxiety, and then you check your blood pressure again, it is higher. So you get into this anxiety, high blood pressure, anxiety, higher blood pressure, more anxiety. You get into that loop of anxiety and high blood pressure. Now, I want you to stop obsessing about your blood pressure readings, unless your blood pressure is 180 over 120 and above. When is that? Yes, it makes sense to obsess about it, and you should be seeking medical attention straight away. But below that, I want you to stop obsessing about it unless it's very, very high. The reason for this is, like I've just said, it leads to anxiety, and anxiety will not help you control your blood pressure. It is counterproductive. I just want to add that I know why we obsess about our blood pressure readings. I've been there, I've done it, but I've found out that it's actually counterproductive and it doesn't help my blood pressure management. So just like I have jumped out of that loop, I also want you to jump out of that loop because it is counterproductive. Why do we do it? Well, it's because we've been set a target of 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury as being normal. This is been provided by the guidelines. Now, here is one thing. The guidelines have been set for us, but they do not take a lot of factors into consideration. Factors like racial differences, genetic differences. These have a role to play in the origin of high blood pressure and how we tolerate high blood pressure. Now, I know for a fact that black people, we develop high blood pressure at an earlier age. We have worse high blood pressure outcomes, and we're also more salt sensitive compared to other races. Now, the guidelines don't take all of this into consideration, and I understand why they do that. I sympathize with the guideline developers because they cannot develop different guidelines for different subsets of people. So they cannot develop guidelines for black people, guidelines for Caucasians, another set of guidelines for Asians, another set of guidelines for Hispanics. It's just going to get very cumbersome and confusing. So they have to go for a sweet spot for all of us. But it is safe to say that there is still, genetic and racial differences, and we have to take that into consideration whilst we're chasing the target price, which is 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. The next point I want to make is this: if you have isolated high blood pressure, that is to say, all you have is high blood pressure with no associated risk factors, then your risk of developing complications is a lot less. Your risk is not zero, but it is a lot less. What are these associated risk factors? Where I'm talking about things like heavy smoking, heavy use of alcohol, being overweight, high cholesterol, high blood sugars, which may translate as insulin resistance, as well as high triglycerides. Now, if you got those risk factors, then your risk of developing complications is a lot higher. Now, what I want you to do is this: if you've got those risk factors, then I want you, instead of focusing on your blood pressure readings, I want you to focus on reversing those risk factors. And some of them are easily done. For instance, you can stop smoking, you can start losing the fat, you can take steps to lower your cholesterol. So rather than focusing on your blood pressure readings, I want you to concentrate your efforts on reversing those risk factors, because if you're doing that, in actual fact, when you do that, your blood pressure will begin to fall in line. The next thing I want to talk about is related to what we call the autonomic nervous system. Now, the autonomic nervous system has two aspects to it. It's got the sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, you don't need to know the ins and outs of how the autonomic nervous system works, but what you need to know is that the parasympathetic calms you down, it reduces your heart rate, and it also lowers your blood pressure. That's why you want the parasympathetic nervous system to dominate the sympathetic. And what does the sympathetic do? It actually does the exact opposite of what the parasympathetic does. And that's why you want the parasympathetic. How do you get the parasympathetic nervous system to be more influential than the sympathetic? Well, there are several ways of doing that. One of them is deep breathing, but I'm not going to get into the various ways of getting your parasympathetic nervous system to become more dominant. That's a subject for a future video, but for now, what I want you to do is watch my video on the herbal teas that will help you to lower your high blood pressure, and look out for those teas that will help you to calm your mind and body down. Those are the teas you want to go for. We don't know how those herbal teas work, but my theory is that they probably reset the anxiety center in the brain, and that way they will help you to deal with anxiety. And if you're able to deal with anxiety, well, that's half the battle won as far as high blood pressure control is concerned. And the more things you do that will allow the parasympathetic nervous system to become dominant, the better you'll be at actually controlling your high blood pressure. I've talked about a lot of things in this video. I've talked about the fact that I want you to jump out of the high blood pressure anxiety loop because it is counterproductive. I've talked about the limitations of the blood pressure guidelines. I've talked about the fact that if you've got risk factors, then I want you, instead of focusing on your blood pressure readings, to actually take steps to reverse those risk factors, because if you do that, your blood pressure control will fall in line. I've also talked about the fact that I want you to allow the parasympathetic nervous system to become dominant over the sympathetic. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If what I've said here actually resonates with you, please do leave a comment in the commenting section. I like to hear from you, okay? Right there, leave a comment there. And if you know somebody who's got high blood pressure, it will actually make sense for you to share this video with them, because if you do that, you'll be caring for them. I think that's about. Oh, if you haven't subscribed yet, if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, well, please do subscribe. I like your company. The subscription button is just right there in the bottom right corner there. I think that's about it in this video. But before I sign out, I just want to say this. If you've got high blood pressure, please do not panic. In the end, you're going to be fine, okay? We'll work together and you're going to get there in the end. Until next time, this is Dr. Joe signing out.